I locked my husband and my own sister in our bedroom while they were busy. Not to confront them alone, but to summon our entire extended family for a public trial. 6 months is a short time to measure the depth of the marital ocean, but it's long enough to start feeling the cold currents beneath a calm surface. My name is Rachel. I'm 26 years old, and I'm married to Daniel, a man who, by any social definition, was the complete package. He's handsome, with a chiseled jaw that rarely smiled, but was all the more captivating for it. He has a brilliant career at a prestigious architecture firm in Chicago, and most importantly, he treated me with a politeness that was nearly perfect. Too perfect? Perhaps. That Saturday morning, we were planning to attend the wedding of one of Daniel's colleagues. I stood before the full-length mirror in our bedroom, admiring myself in a new navy satin dress I'd just bought. I felt beautiful. The cut fit my body perfectly, accentuating my slim waist. The bedroom door opened. Daniel walked in. The scent of his expensive cologne and fresh coffee wafted from him. He was already immaculate in his tailored gray suit. His steps halted when he saw me. His eyes swept over my appearance from head to toe. There was no spark of admiration, just the analytical gaze of an architect inspecting a building's faulty foundation. "The color is too dark, Rach," he commented, his voice flat. He walked to my closet, opening it without asking. My smile slowly faded. "But it's the dress code, Dan. And I love the cut. The cut is fine, but the color drains the life from you. You are—" He trailed off. His fingers deftly sifted through the hangers, stopping on a champagne-colored dress with lace accents at the neckline. "Wear this instead. It's more elegant, more classic." I stared at the champagne dress. It was an old one. Honestly, I disliked the high collar. It felt matronly. "Dan, I feel more confident in the blue one." Daniel turned, looking at me with an expression I found impossible to argue with. It wasn't anger, but disappointment, as if my choice were a fatal error in judgment. "Honey, I just want you to look perfect by my side. You're beautiful. But your taste? It just needs a little refinement. Trust me, okay?" Those words, "your taste needs refinement." This wasn't the first time. Since we'd married, Daniel had slowly taken control over what I wore, how I styled my hair, even how I laughed. At first, I thought it was the attention of a husband who wanted his wife to look her best, but over time, I felt like I was being chiseled into a new person. He didn't love me for who I was. He was trying to turn me into another version of myself, or perhaps a version of someone else. With a heavy heart, I changed out of my blue dress and into the one Daniel had chosen. When I emerged from the closet, he smiled. Satisfied, he kissed my forehead. "Now, this is my wife. Graceful, not gaudy." I forced a smile, though my chest felt tight. In the car's rearview mirror, I stared at my reflection. The woman in the mirror looked pretty, but she felt like a stranger. She wasn't Rachel. She was a doll dressed up by Daniel, and the question surfaced again, nagging me like a pebble in my shoe. Whose standard of perfection exists inside Daniel's head? The news came a week later via the family group chat. Sarah's home. My older sister, Sarah, had just finished a 3-year work contract in Paris. Sarah was the definition of the golden child. She was beautiful, intelligent, fashionable, and always the center of gravity wherever she went. Since we were kids, I'd lived in her shadow. Not because Sarah was cruel, she was a good sister, but because her light was so bright it made me look dim. That night, my mother hosted a welcome home dinner at our parents' house. Daniel and I arrived early to help. He seemed quieter than usual. He kept checking his watch, and the hand holding his glass of water was trembling slightly. "Are you feeling okay, Dan?" I asked, touching his arm. He flinched as if waking from a dream. "Huh? Oh, no. Just tired from work." At 7 p.m., sharp, the front door opened to a chorus of excited voices. Sarah made her typical theatrical entrance. She wore a cream-colored trench coat, a silk scarf draped artfully but casually, and leather boots. Her wavy hair fell perfectly over her shoulders. "Rachel!" she squealed, hugging me tightly. The scent of her expensive perfume, a mix of vanilla and rose, filled my nose. God, I missed my little sister so much. "Welcome back, Sarah," I replied sincerely. I had missed her. Then Sarah released me, and her eyes landed on the figure behind me. Daniel was standing stiffly by the dining table. "Hello, Daniel," Sarah said. Her voice changed, becoming a little lower, a little more intimate. Or was that just my imagination? "Long time no see. Congratulations on the wedding. Sorry I couldn't make it." I turned to my husband, and in that moment, my heart felt like it stopped for a second. Daniel wasn't just looking at Sarah. He was staring at her. His eyes were locked on her face with a frightening intensity. His pupils were dilated, his lips slightly parted as if he'd forgotten how to breathe. It wasn't the look of a brother-in-law greeting his sister-in-law. It was the look of a man who'd found an oasis after 10 years lost in the desert. There was longing, admiration, and a deep, aching pain all mixed together. "Hello, Sarah," Daniel finally answered, his voice hoarse. You look incredible." Paris was good to me. Sarah laughed, flipping her hair. A gesture so natural, yet so lethal. That night, I felt like a spectator in my own life. At the dinner table, Daniel, who was usually reserved, suddenly became an active conversationalist. He asked Sarah about everything in Paris, the museums, the cafes in Montmartre, the art scene. "Do you still paint, Sar?" he asked enthusiastically. "Of course, it's my therapy," Sarah replied, taking a bite of steak. "Good. Don't ever stop." "Your talent is rare," Daniel praised. I looked down at my plate. Daniel never asked about my job as a book editor. He never praised my cooking with that level of excitement. Here, at this table, surrounded by my family, I felt utterly alone. And the most painful realization of all was that the champagne dress I wore last week, the one Daniel had called elegant, was strikingly similar in style to what Sarah was wearing tonight. 2 weeks after Sarah's return, our family dynamic shifted. She often dropped by our house or invited us out to dinner. At first, I was happy, but a pattern began to emerge. A painful one. That Saturday night, the three of us were having dinner at an upscale Italian restaurant. It was supposed to be my date night with Daniel, but Sarah had called that afternoon, complaining of being bored at home, and Daniel, without consulting me, immediately invited her to join. I wore a maroon blouse and black culottes. My makeup was minimalist, just as Daniel approved. Sarah arrived in a simple black dress that hugged her body perfectly, paired with pearl earrings. Throughout dinner, Daniel and Sarah dominated the conversation. They reminisced about their past, their college days. It turned out they went to the same university, though in different years. I knew that, but I never knew they were this close. "Remember when we were on the orientation committee? You were so intense back then," Sarah laughed, lightly tapping Daniel's arm. Daniel laughed freely, a laugh I rarely saw when he was with me. "I was playing a role, Sar. You know I'm a softie." I just smiled stiffly, stirring my pasta. "You two were really close back then, huh?" I asked, trying to break into their circle. A brief silence fell. Sarah and Daniel exchanged a quick glance. It was fleeting, but I caught it. "Yeah. We were in the same club, Rach," Daniel answered quickly, then changed the subject. He looked at Sarah, then at me. "Speaking of which, Rach, you should see how Sarah mixes and matches her accessories. Simple, but effective. Wow, those pearl earrings really elongate the neck." Sarah smiled demurely. "Oh, these are just cheap things, Dan. It's not about the price. It's about the taste," Daniel cut in, his tone firm. He looked straight at me. "You should learn a lot from your sister, Rach. Sarah has that effortless beauty. She doesn't need a lot of makeup, but her classy aura just shines." If you could just copy her style a little, you'd look much more attractive. Clang! The fork in my hand slipped, hitting the ceramic plate with a loud noise. The restaurant wasn't too crowded, so the sound was jarringly clear. My face flushed, feeling as if I'd been slapped in public. Daniel had just compared me to my own sister, right in front of her, and implicitly said I wasn't good enough. Dan, are you saying I'm not attractive? My voice trembled, trying to hold back the emotion. Daniel sighed, his face showing an expression of fatigue, as if dealing with a whining child. Don't be so sensitive, Rach. I'm just giving you constructive feedback. I want you to grow. Why are you getting offended? Dan, don't be like that with Rachel, Sarah interjected, but her tone sounded like a half-hearted defense. There was a small smile at the corner of her lips, a triumphant smirk she tried to hide. Rachel has her own style. The word unique, from Sarah's mouth, sounded like a euphemism for weird or ugly. I'm going to the restroom, I said, standing up abruptly. Inside the bathroom, I stared at the mirror. Tears streamed down my face. I felt small, ugly, and worthless. Worse, I was starting to feel that my presence at that table was merely an interruption for the two of them. The way they talked, the way they laughed, the way Daniel adored Sarah, it wasn't the interaction of old friends. It was the interaction of two people with unfinished history. That suspicion was like a termite. At first, you don't see it, but slowly, it eats away at the foundation of your faith until everything is rotten. On Sunday, I went to my mother's house alone. Daniel claimed he had a project deadline, so he stayed home. Mom asked me to help her clean out the attic because Dad wanted to convert it into a home office. Your sister's stuff is everywhere, Rach. Please sort through what to throw out and what to keep, she instructed, pointing to a stack of dusty boxes in the corner. I began opening the boxes. They were filled with all sorts of things. College textbooks, sketchbooks, old cassette tapes, and photo albums. Sarah was the sentimental type. She kept everything. As I opened an old, taped-up shoebox, dust flew everywhere. Inside were stacks of letters and Polaroid photos tied with a rubber band. Curious, I picked up the stack of photos. The first one, Sarah on a beach, laughing widely while holding an ice cream cone. Beautiful. The second, Sarah in a cafe, a candid shot. The third, Sarah being hugged from behind by a man. I held the photo closer to the dim attic light. My heart stopped. The man was Daniel. But it wasn't the Daniel I knew now. This was a younger Daniel. His hair a bit longer, wearing a worn-out flannel shirt. He was holding Sarah possessively, his chin resting on her shoulder, and those eyes, Daniel's eyes in that photo, looked at Sarah with the same adoring gaze I'd seen when she returned from Paris. A look of undying love. I flipped the photo over. In Sarah's handwriting, with a black marker, my Daniel, 2018. Forever. My hands trembled. I removed the rubber band and looked at the other photos. There were dozens. Daniel kissing Sarah's cheek. Daniel giving Sarah a piggyback ride. Daniel and Sarah celebrating a birthday with a small cake. And love letters, in Daniel's distinctive, neat, cursive handwriting. I picked one at random and read it. Sar, you are my everything. I can't imagine a life without you. Even if the world ended, as long as I have you, I'm ready. Don't ever leave me. I'll work my ass off to be worthy of you. My world spun. The date on the letter was from 5 years ago. That meant their relationship happened a year before Sarah left for Paris and 2 years before I even met Daniel. Why had no one told me? Why did my mother keep this a secret? Why didn't Sarah say anything? And most importantly, why did Daniel lie? Daniel said they were just friends from a college club. He said they weren't close. But these photos told a story of an epic, profound love affair. Suddenly, all of Daniel's behavior toward me made sense. His critiques of my appearance, his efforts to change my style, his gaze at Sarah. I wasn't his wife. I was a consolation prize. I was Sarah's understudy, a replacement he could mold to resemble the original. My tears dripped onto one of the photos. the pain wasn't just jealousy. It was the pain of being utterly deceived by the two people I loved most. I took photos of all the evidence with my phone. Then, with trembling hands, I put everything back in the box, taping it shut, as if it had never been touched. I needed answers, but I couldn't be reckless. That night, after I got home, the atmosphere was frigid. Daniel was on the couch, watching TV while scrolling through his phone. He was smiling to himself at the screen. The moment he saw me walk in, he quickly turned off the screen and placed his phone face down on the coffee table. "How was it at Mom's?" "Get the cleaning done?" he asked, his tone casual. I put my purse down, staring at him intently. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I couldn't pretend everything was fine after seeing what was in that Pandora's box. "Dan!" I called out. My voice was flat, but it had a sharpness that made him turn. "What is it, Rach? You look pale. How close were you and Sarah, really?" Daniel froze. His Adam's apple bobbed. He tried to laugh, but it sounded forced. "Why are you asking that again? I told you, just college friends. From the same club. Club members don't get cozy on the beach, Dan. Club members don't write letters saying, 'You are my everything.'" I attacked directly. Daniel's face went white. He stood up and walked toward me. You went through Sarah's things." "Mom asked me to clean. And I found everything, Dan. The photos of you two, your letters." My eyes started to burn. "Why did you lie? Why did you marry me if you were my sister's ex-boyfriend? Was I just a rebound?" Daniel grabbed my shoulders, his grip tight. He looked into my eyes, searching for a way to manipulate the situation. But this time, my defenses were strong. "Rach, listen to me." His voice was low, soft yet urgent. "That was the past. It was 5 years ago. We were young. We were stupid. It was puppy love." "Puppy love?" I laughed bitterly. "Those letters were incredibly deep, Dan. That wasn't puppy love." Okay. We dated." "Happy?" Daniel snapped quietly, then composed himself again. "We dated for a year, but we broke up amicably before she went to Paris. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to feel insecure. I know you've always felt like you're in Sarah's shadow. If I had told you my ex was your sister, you would have rejected me from the start, right?" "Of course I would have," I shouted. "That's weird, Dan. It's sick." Daniel pulled me into a forced hug. I struggled, but he held me tight until I couldn't move. He stroked my hair. "Shh, calm down, Rach. Listen, I married you because I love you. You're different from Sarah. Sarah is ambitious, stubborn. You're gentle. You're understanding. You're my home. Don't let the past ruin us. Sarah and I are over. Over, Rach. Now I have you." I stayed silent in his embrace, but my heart felt no warmth. There was something wrong with his argument. He called Sarah ambitious and stubborn as if they were negative traits, but his eyes always lit up when he praised her success. He said he loved my gentleness, but he was always trying to change my appearance to be more classy. Like Sarah. "If it's really over," I whispered into his chest, "then why is her number still saved in your phone as my muse?" Daniel's body tensed. I had seen it for a split second when he turned off his phone. The contact name popped up in a WhatsApp notification. He released me from the hug, his expression turning cold. The mask of the loving husband was cracking. "You were snooping, weren't you? Prying into my phone. I'm your wife, Dan. Precisely because you're my wife. You should trust me. A muse is an inspiration. We talk about art, about design, nothing more." Daniel turned and walked toward the bedroom. "I'm tired. Don't create problems where there are none, Rachel. That's childish. Grow up." He shut the door hard. I stood frozen in the silent living room. That night, I slept in the guest room, not out of anger, but out of fear. I realized his confession wasn't a sign of remorse. It was crisis management. Daniel wasn't denying his feelings. He was only denying the status of their relationship. And the label "my muse" wasn't about the past. It was about the present. That night, Staring at the dark ceiling, my tears ran dry. Sadness slowly morphed into something colder, harder. I remembered all of Daniel's praise for Sarah, all his criticism of me, and all the strange coincidences lately. I have to be careful, I thought. This marriage is no longer a home. It's a battlefield, and I will not let myself be a casualty who dies foolishly without a fight. If Daniel thought I was stupid and obedient, he was about to learn that gentleness can also be a deadly weapon. After our fight about the past, Daniel changed. Not to become more honest, but to become more slippery. He employed a strategy that made me feel like I was going crazy. A gaslighter's classic move, acting as if everything was normal and I was the one ruining the peace with my wild imagination. Sunday morning, we had breakfast on the patio. Daniel poured coffee into my cup with a sweet smile, as if he hadn't slammed a door in my face the night before. Sarah invited us to see a play tonight. She has an extra ticket, he said casually while spreading jam on his toast. I already told her we'd go. My hand stopped stirring my coffee. You didn't ask me first? Daniel looked at me, raising an eyebrow with a feigned innocence. Well, you like the arts, right? Besides, Sarah is all alone. It'd be a shame not to keep her company. You're not going to be stingy with your own sister, are you? Dan, we just had a huge fight about her. Are you not getting it? Or are you just dense? My voice rose an octave. Daniel put down his toast roughly. He let out a long sigh, the kind a parent gives a toddler having a tantrum. Rach, please, don't start again. I was honest with you about the past so we wouldn't have any secrets. But if you're just going to turn paranoid like this, I regret being honest. You're so insecure. Being jealous of your own sister is a sickness of the heart. You know, those words stabbed me right in the gut. A sickness of the heart. I'm not jealous of Sarah as a sister. I'm suspicious of your behavior, Dan. What behavior? He challenged back. I'm polite to her. I'm helping her readjust to being back here. Is that wrong? If I was rude to her, what would the family think? You want me to be a terrible husband to my sister-in-law? His logic was a twisted maze, cornering me into a position where I was the villain. If I forbade him, I was a possessive wife tearing the family apart. If I stayed silent, I was letting them play with fire. That evening, we went. In the theater lobby, Sarah was waiting. She wore a stunning emerald green velvet dress. Hey, lovebirds! She greeted cheerfully. She hugged me, then turned to hug Daniel. The hug was a fraction of a second longer than what was normal. Sarah's hand patted his back twice. During the show, Daniel sat in the middle, me to his left, Sarah to his right. In the darkness of the theater, I could feel his body leaning to the right. Every time there was a funny scene, he didn't turn to me to share a laugh. He turned to Sarah. I could hear their quiet whispers, followed by intimate, stifled giggles. I sat there, staring at the stage with a blurred vision. I felt like a third wheel on their date. Daniel had succeeded in making me feel small. He made me question myself. Am I overreacting? Is their closeness actually normal? And my mind is just tainted because I know their history. That self-doubt is the deadliest poison. And Daniel was feeding it to me every day, spoonful by spoonful. A month went by. I learned to be quiet, not because I accepted it, but because I realized every protest I made would just be used as a weapon by Daniel to label me as an unstable wife. I started observing patterns, coincidences. On a Tuesday, I asked Daniel to pick me up from work because my car was in the shop. Sorry, Rach, I'm working late. Sudden meeting with a client on the south side. You should just get an Uber. His text read. I complied. But as my Uber drove past a large shopping center on the south side, coincidentally near Sarah's new apartment, my eyes caught something familiar in the lobby drop-off area. Daniel's black SUV. My heart raced. I asked the driver to slow down. From behind the tinted window, I saw Daniel get out of the car and open the trunk. He unloaded several large boxes with the logo of a famous furniture store. Sarah stood beside him, holding 2 cups of coffee, laughing and pointing at something. It wasn't a client meeting. It was Daniel playing volunteer mover for Sarah's apartment. I snapped a picture from inside the Uber. Exhibit B. That night, Daniel came home at 10 p.m. He looked tired, his shirt slightly wrinkled. "How was the meeting, Dan?" I asked as he took off his shoes. I tried to sound as normal as possible while making tea in the kitchen. Exhausting. The client was so picky, kept asking for design revisions, he complained, massaging his neck. His acting was flawless. "Oh yeah? Where was the meeting?" "In the West Loop. You know, that trendy cafe." "But Sarah's apartment was in Lincoln Park. Did you have dinner with the client too?" I probed. "Yeah, we grabbed a quick bite." "That's weird," I said, placing the teacup in front of him with a slight thud. "Because my coworker, Nuri, said she saw your car in the lobby of an apartment building in Lincoln Park. She thought she was mistaken." Silence. Daniel froze. His hand, about to reach for the cup, stopped midair. His eyes darted around for a moment, searching for an alibi. It was the crucial second when a liar gets caught. "Oh, that!" Daniel laughed awkwardly. "Yeah. Sarah asked for a quick favor on my way back. She said she bought a bookshelf, but it wouldn't fit in her car. Since it was on my way, I helped her carry it. It didn't take long. Just dropped it off. Why didn't you tell me?" "Oh my God. Rake. If I told you, you'd just get suspicious again. You're so sensitive when it comes to Sarah. I just wanted to avoid a pointless argument. My intentions were good. I was trying to protect your feelings." Again, he twisted the facts. He validated his lie with the excuse of protecting my feelings. He framed his dishonesty as a form of sacrifice. "Dan, a lie for a good cause is still a lie," I said coldly. "And you didn't just drop it off. I saw you laughing in the lobby. You looked pretty happy." Daniel's face hardened. "Think whatever you want. I'm tired of dealing with your drama. I work my ass off to earn money. I help out family, and I still get suspected." He went to take a shower, leaving me with the steaming tea. I watched his back with a new kind of disgust. The love that once filled my chest was slowly eroding, replaced by revulsion. He wasn't just a traitor. He was a coward. Next month was my 27th birthday. In previous years, before we were married, I usually celebrated it simply dinner with my parents or a solo staycation. But this year, Daniel insisted on a romantic dinner. "I want to make up for all my mistakes. I want to spoil you," he said a week before the day. His sweet demeanor was back. Love bombing. The classic cycle of emotional abuse. He hurts me, then floods me with attention so I won't leave, only to hurt me again later. I knew the pattern, but I pretended to be won over. I needed him to feel safe. So he'd let his guard down. On my birthday, a large box was sitting on the bed, wrapped in a gold ribbon. "Open it," Daniel urged, his eyes sparkling. I opened the box. Inside was a cocktail dress, a dusty pink color with an off-the-shoulder design and an asymmetrical hem. The material was premium silk, incredibly soft. Beside it was a box of perfume from a niche French brand that cost a fortune. "It's beautiful, Dan," I said, this time sincerely admiring the dress. "But this isn't usually my style. Just try it on. I'm sure you'll look different, more vibrant." That evening, I wore the dress. It fit my body perfectly, as if it were custom-made. When I sprayed the perfume, the scent was foreign. A heavy aroma of tuberose and sandalwood, not the fresh citrus I usually wore. Daniel stared at me without blinking when I came out of the room. "Perfect," he whispered. He came closer, inhaling the scent on my neck deeply. "This scent is perfect on you." We went to a fine dining restaurant. In the middle of dinner, Daniel's phone rang. A video call. "1 second. Sarah wants to wish you a happy birthday," he said, immediately answering without waiting for my consent and pointing the screen at my face. Sarah's face appeared on screen. She was in her room, wearing a face mask. "Happy birthday, Rachel. Sweetie. Ooh, out for a fancy dinner?" "Thanks, Sarah," I replied curtly. Sarah's eyes narrowed on the screen, scrutinizing my appearance. Suddenly, she burst out laughing. Oh my God, is that the Ellie Saab dress from last season's collection? The dusty pink one? Daniel, did you seriously buy that for Rachel? Daniel chuckled, glancing at me. Why? It looks good, right? It's amazing. That's the dress I wanted so bad in Paris but couldn't get because it was sold out. Your taste really never changes, does it, Dan? She paused. And wait. Sarah brought her face closer to the camera as if she could smell through the 4G signal. Did you also get her the Le Labo Santal perfume? I did, Daniel replied casually. Wow. That's been my signature scent since college. Rachel, did you know? Daniel used to love it when I wore that perfume. Said the scent was addictive. Sarah laughed again. A laugh that sounded like glass being scraped. Look at that. Rachel's my little mini-me tonight. It's cute on you, Rach. It suits you. The blood drained from my face. I sat there, in a lavish restaurant, draped in an expensive dress and $1,000,000 perfume, feeling like a clown. Daniel hadn't bought me a gift. He had bought a gift for Sarah, but put it on my body. He missed Sarah's scent, so he sprayed it on me. He missed Sarah's style, so he dressed me up like her. I was a blank canvas he was painting into the image of his ex. Hang up the phone, I said coldly. Huh? Why? Daniel asked, confused. Hang up now, Dan. I snapped, loud enough for a few guests at the next table to turn. Daniel quickly ended the call. What is wrong with you? Don't embarrass me by shouting like that. I looked at him, my eyes welling up with tears of anger, not sadness. You're using me as your doll, Dan. You miss her, but since you can't have her, you turn me into her. It's disgusting. I feel so disgusted. What are you talking about? Those are expensive things, Rachel. You could at least appreciate your husband's effort. I don't need expensive things if their purpose is to satisfy your sick fantasy. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked out of the restaurant, leaving him alone. I didn't care how I was getting home. In the taxi, I rubbed my neck raw with a wet wipe, trying to scrub off the damn scent of that perfume. The scent of betrayal. After the birthday incident, we slept in separate rooms for a week. I was in the guest room. Daniel, in the master. Our relationship was like a broken kite string caught on a tree branch, fragile, waiting for a strong wind to blow it away. But for the sake of my strategy, I eventually returned to the master bedroom. I acted softer. I apologized for being overly emotional. Daniel accepted it with his typical arrogance, feeling victorious. That's more like it. A good wife is one who listens and respects her husband, he said, kissing my forehead. I held back my nausea. My only reason for returning to that room was one thing: access. That night, at 2 a.m., Daniel was sound asleep, his soft snores filling the room. His phone was on the nightstand, charging. I knew his passcode. Our wedding date. The irony. He used our sacred date to protect his dirty secrets. Slowly, I took the phone. I dimmed the screen to its lowest setting. My heart pounded in my ears, terrified he would wake up. I opened WhatsApp. The chat with Sarah, under the contact name My Muse, was third from the top. The timestamp was 11:45 p.m., right before Daniel went to sleep. I opened it. My Muse. 11:30 p.m. You up? Can't sleep, Daniel. 11:32 p.m. Yeah, thinking about you. My Muse. 11:33 p.m. Thinking about what, my little mini-me? Ha ha. Daniel. 11:35 p.m. Don't be like that. She's just being sensitive. But seriously, when she wore that dress, I had total déjà vu. Just, the vibe was different. Original is the best. My heart sank reading that. Original is the best. My Muse, 11:38 p.m. You remember this place? Sends a photo of a cabin in the woods. Daniel. 11:40 p.m. Holy shit. The cabin in Lake Geneva. The first time we... Fire emoji. How could I forget? My muse 11:41 p.m. It was so cold outside, but so warm because of you. Wish we could go back. Wonder when we can? A reunion? Daniel. 11:45 p.m. Patience. Timing is everything. I'll arrange the situation so it's safe. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. A reunion. Arrange the situation. This wasn't just nostalgic reminiscing. This was a plan. They were planning a physical meeting, a reunion at the cabin where they had first been intimate. I scrolled up. There was no explicit sexting, but the emotional intimacy was far more dangerous. They sent each other songs, discussed their dreams, and validated each other's feelings that my marriage to Daniel was a technical error, and Sarah was his delayed destiny. I immediately forwarded all the chats to a secret email address Daniel didn't know about. I also took pictures of the chat screen with my own phone for double proof. As I was about to put his phone back, a new notification popped up. From Sarah, my muse 21 a.m. Good night, my eternal love. Dream of me. I looked at Daniel sleeping peacefully. His face was as calm as a baby's. How could someone sleep so soundly after planning to commit adultery with his sister-in-law? I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I sat in the darkness, watching the dawn slowly break. My fear and sadness were completely gone. All that remained was a deadly cold. If they wanted a reunion, I would give them a reunion they would never forget for the rest of their lives. The next day, I began my first move. I requested 2 days off from work but didn't tell Daniel. That evening, I came home with a deliberately exhausted look on my face. Dan, I have bad news, I said at dinner. What is it? He asked, without looking up from his phone. The office is sending me to San Francisco, last minute. There's a problem at our branch printer there. I have to leave tomorrow morning. For 2 nights. Daniel looked up. A flicker of light danced in his eyes. It was incredibly fast, but I caught it. It wasn't the sadness of a husband being left by his wife. It was the glint of freedom. Wow, that's sudden. Did you book your ticket? He asked, his voice trying to sound concerned. Already did. First flight out tomorrow. Sorry, Dan. You'll be all alone here. It's okay, Rach. It's for work. You be careful. Just focus on your job. Don't worry about the house. I can take care of myself. I can take care of myself. Meaning, I can be free to cheat. That night, I packed my suitcase. Daniel helped me with suspicious enthusiasm. After the suitcase was ready, we went to bed. In the morning, I left in a pre-booked airport taxi. Daniel waved at the gate with a wide smile. Text me when you land. As soon as the taxi was out of our subdivision, I asked the driver to turn around. Sir, can we go to the Marriott on the main road up ahead? I'm not going to the airport. The driver was confused but complied. I checked into a hotel just 15 minutes from my house. In the room, I opened my laptop. 2 days ago, while Daniel was out playing soccer, I had installed 2 tiny button-sized spy cameras. One was hidden between the books on the living room shelf. The other was placed on top of the wardrobe in the master bedroom, disguised among a pile of bags. The cameras were connected to an app on my laptop and phone, streaming in real time. At 9 a.m., Daniel left for work as usual. At 11 a.m., a notification came on my phone from the family group chat. My mother sent a photo. Sarah has a fever. Can't make it to the family get-together this afternoon. I smiled cynically. Sick? Or preparing? At 4 p.m., Daniel came home from work earlier than usual. On my laptop screen, I watched him enter the house in a hurry. He didn't change into casual clothes. Instead, he showered and put on more cologne. He tidied up the bedroom, changing the bedsheets to the new ones, the silk, maroon-colored sheets we received as a wedding gift and rarely used. My heart pounded as I watched his preparations. He was setting the stage for his dirty play. At 5 p.m., Daniel's phone rang in the living room. He answered it on speaker while lighting a scented candle. Hello, darling. I'm on my way. Sarah's voice came through clearly from the CCTV. Okay. I left the garage door slightly open. Just drive straight in so the neighbors don't see, Daniel replied, his voice trembling with excitement. Rachel's safe in San Francisco. We have until the day after tomorrow. Can't wait to see you. I miss your touch. Me too, Sarah cooed. Daniel hung up, then stood in front of the living room mirror, fixing his hair. He smiled at his own reflection. Finally, he muttered. In my hotel room, I closed my laptop for a moment. My hands were ice cold. This was the evidence I had been waiting for. But visual evidence alone wasn't enough to destroy them in the eyes of our family, who adored Sarah. I needed eyewitnesses. I needed a sting operation. I picked up my phone and typed a broadcast message to the extended family group chat, a group I'd secretly created without Daniel and Sarah. Aunts, uncles, mom, dad, Mr. and Mrs. H, Daniel's parents. I'm so sorry to bother you. I'm begging you all, please. Come to my house at 6 p.m. sharp. There is an emergency concerning the safety of my marriage. Please do not contact Daniel or Sarah. Please, for my sake, just come. After sending the message, I got ready. I put on all black clothes, as if I were in mourning, because today, something was dying. My marriage, my respect for my sister, and my love for my husband, they would all be buried today. I left the hotel and hailed a taxi. This address, please? And step on it, I told the driver. The hunt had begun. The digital clock in the corner of my laptop screen showed 5:15 p.m. Outside my hotel window, the Chicago sky was turning a bruised orange, as if it sensed the impending doom. I sat cross-legged on the bed, staring at the screen, my eyes sore from not blinking. My heart was beating a painful rhythm, hammering against my throat. On the screen, the black and white feed from the living room camera was sharp. A white Honda HR-V pulled up to the front of the house. Sarah's car. Daniel emerged from the front door. He jogged to the gate, a wide smile on his face, a smile he never gave me when I came home from work. He opened the gate hastily and guided Sarah's car into the garage. Good, I thought coldly. Once the car was parked and the garage door shut, a precaution against prying neighbors, they both entered the living room through the side door. The camera captured the moment perfectly. Sarah entered first. She wore a thin, cream-colored trench coat and sunglasses, even though it was late afternoon, styled like a celebrity avoiding the paparazzi. Daniel followed right behind her. Immediately grabbing her by the waist and spinning her around to face him, they hugged. Tightly. Far too tightly for a brother-in-law and sister-in-law. Finally, Daniel's voice crackled through my laptop speakers. Clear enough. I've been going crazy waiting for you. Sarah let out a throaty laugh, taking off her sunglasses and tossing them carelessly on the console table. Right on top of my favorite vase. The traffic was hell, Dan. This city is a nightmare without you in it. Daniel kissed her forehead, then her cheek. Sarah didn't pull away. She tilted her neck, giving him more access. Is Rachel safe? Sarah asked, her tone as casual as if she were asking about the weather. Safe. She just landed in San Francisco an hour ago. Tonight, the world is ours. I clenched the hotel bedspread until my knuckles turned white. Hearing my name mentioned in their affair scenario made my blood boil. They spoke of my existence not as a wife to be respected, but as a technical obstacle that had been successfully removed. This house. Sarah scanned the living room, her eyes appraising. The decor is so stiff, so Rachel, so boring. We can change it. Slowly. Or we can just buy a new house, one that suits your taste. Daniel replied quickly, as if eager to please his queen. Don't be in such a rush, Sarah giggled, her fingers tracing his chest. Let's just enjoy the thrill of playing in the enemy's den. Isn't that what makes it so exciting? They laughed together. A condescending laugh. A laugh that celebrated their victory over my foolishness. I held my breath, fighting the urge to throw my laptop against the wall. Patience, Rachel. Let them feel on top of the world. The higher they fly, the harder they'll fall. They then walked hand in hand up the stairs, towards the second floor, towards my master bedroom. I quickly switched the feed to the second camera. The one in our bedroom had a wide-angle view from atop the wardrobe. The entire room was visible, including the king-sized bed with the fresh maroon sheets Daniel had put on. The bedroom door opened. They walked in. Sarah took off her coat and threw it onto my vanity chair, the one where I sat every morning. She was now wearing only a very minimal black silk slip dress. Her body was indeed beautiful. I had to admit it, but that beauty now seemed grotesque to me, like a corpse flower, alluring but rotten. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, gazing at Sarah with an adoring look, like a slave worshipping his goddess. "Come here," he called, patting his thigh. Sarah walked over and sat on his lap. They didn't immediately have sex. What happened next was far more painful for me to witness. They talked, an intimate conversation that revealed the true depth of their emotional betrayal. "Do you remember our promise?" Sarah asked, playing with the collar of Daniel's shirt. "I remember. We were going to be successful together. We were going to travel the world," Daniel answered. "I'm sorry, Dan, for leaving you back then." Sarah's voice was cloyingly sweet, a little feigned sadness. "I was scared. You weren't established yet. Our parents had such high expectations. I went to Paris to chase my dreams, but it was so lonely there without you." Daniel shook his head, cupping her face. "It's okay. It motivated me, Sar. I worked day and night. I built my career just to prove I was worthy of you. And look at me now, I'm a partner at the firm. I can give you anything you want." "Yes. You're amazing," Sarah praised. "Too bad you rushed into marrying Rachel," Daniel snorted softly. "That was a strategic mistake, Sar. I thought by marrying Rachel, I could stay close to your family, still see you. I thought she could be a substitute for you. Turns out, she can't. She's too plain, too straightforward. There's no challenge." I was frozen in front of my laptop. Tears fell without permission. A strategic mistake. Too plain. No challenge. So all this time, my kindness, my patience, my devotion as a wife in Daniel's eyes, it was just boring. He wasn't looking for a peaceful home. He was looking for the drama and challenge that Sarah offered. I was just a pawn. Daniel used to stay in Sarah's orbit. "Rachel's a good person, I guess," Daniel continued, as if trying to ease his conscience. "But she's like water. Healthy, but tasteless. You're like wine. Intoxicating, you silver-tongued devil." Sarah laughed, then kissed his lips. The kiss deepened. Daniel's hands started to roam. "Wait." Sarah broke the kiss for a second. "Is the door locked?" "It is. And besides, Rachel's in San Francisco. Who's going to walk in? A ghost, maybe?" Sarah joked. "The ghost of our past is already here," Daniel whispered. They both laughed again and fell back onto the bed, onto the maroon sheets, onto the place where I used to sleep and dream of a future with him. I slammed the laptop shut. My breath came in ragged gasps. A wave of nausea hit me, but I swallowed it down. There was no time for tears, no time for self-pity. They thought they were safe. They thought they were the winners. They were dead wrong. I grabbed my bag, put on a black hoodie and a face mask. I walked out of the hotel room with long, determined strides. It was time to go home. The taxi ride from the hotel to my house took only 15 minutes, but it felt like hours. The sky outside was completely dark now. The evening call to prayer had just sounded from a nearby mosque, creating an ironic soundtrack for the sin happening in my home. "Ma'am, should I take the back roads?" "The main street is jammed," the driver offered. "Yes, please. Take the side streets, and please turn off the cabin lights," I requested. I didn't want any neighbors recognizing me when I got out. My phone vibrated. A message from my mom. "Rach, your father and I are on our way. Uncle Rudy and Aunt Lisa too. What's going on? You're scaring us." "Are you okay, honey?" I replied curtly. "Please park a little way down the street from my house. Don't honk. Wait for my signal at the gate. This is important, Mom. The taxi stopped 2 houses down from mine. I paid, giving the driver a large tip so he wouldn't ask questions. I stood on the sidewalk, staring at my own house. The 2-story minimalist home, with its gray siding and black fence, looked calm, peaceful, and warm from the outside. The porch light was on. There were no signs of life. Sarah's car was hidden in the garage, and the lights on the second floor were kept dim. Anyone looking at the house would think the occupants were either resting or away. No one would suspect that inside, 2 traitors were celebrating their victory. I crept towards the gate. I fumbled in my bag for the spare gate key I always carried. The cold metal felt heavy in my hand. The small pedestrian gate wasn't padlocked, just latched. Daniel must have forgotten in his lust-fueled haste. Fool! I opened it slowly. The recently oiled hinges made no sound. I slipped into my own yard like a thief. In the garage, I peeked through a ventilation slit. Sarah's white HR-V was parked neatly next to Daniel's motorcycle. I walked towards the side door. My heart was beating so hard it felt like my ribs would crack. Cold sweat ran down my back. There was a primal fear. The fear of confrontation. But my anger was far greater. This wasn't just about an affair. It was about my dignity. It was about the 6 months of my life I wasted serving a man who was secretly laughing at me. I reached the side door. I inserted the key, turned it slowly. Click. It was unlocked. I took off my shoes, entering in my socks. The cold granite floor stung my feet. The house was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. But from upstairs, I could faintly hear music. Instrumental jazz. Daniel's go-to playlist for setting the mood. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with courage. I was no longer Rachel, the obedient wife. Tonight, I was Rachel, the executioner. I began climbing the stairs, one by one, soundlessly. The second floor was dimly lit by a soft yellow wall lamp in the hallway. The master bedroom door, the room that should have been the most sacred space in our marriage, was slightly ajar. A 4-inch gap. Daniel was careless. Or maybe he was so confident I was hundreds of miles away in San Francisco that he didn't feel the need to close it properly. Through that gap, I could see their shadows moving on the wall. The light from inside came from a bedside lamp and the scented candle on the nightstand. I could smell it from here, a thick mix of lavender and musk. I moved closer to the door, my trembling hand reaching for the phone in my jacket pocket. I opened the camera app. Flash off. Shutter sound off. I aimed the lens through the crack. The scene inside made my stomach churn. They weren't having sex. That seemed to be over. They were now in an intimate afterglow phase. Daniel and Sarah were lying on the bed, half naked, covered by a blanket up to their waists. Daniel was running his fingers through Sarah's hair, while her head rested contentedly on my husband's bare chest. "We should do this more often," Sarah murmured. "I need to recharge. Anytime you want." "My muse," Daniel replied softly. He picked up a glass of wine from the nightstand, took a small sip, then gave it to Sarah. She drank from the same glass, their lip marks meeting on the rim. "So, what about Rachel?" Sarah asked again, seeming obsessed with discussing her victory over me. "Aren't you afraid she'll get suspicious?" Daniel chuckled condescendingly. "Her? She's easy to fool, Sar. All I have to do is praise her a little, buy her something nice, or act sweet, and she just melts. She's too in love with me. Love makes people stupid. I recorded everything. Every word, every inch of that humiliation. You're so mean," Sarah said, playfully hitting his chest, but she was laughing. "But hey, I'm glad. If she were smart, we couldn't be doing this." "Exactly. So just let her be the trophy wife in this house. The important thing is, my heart, my soul, will always be yours," Daniel said, kissing the top of Sarah's head. "You are my queen, Sar. Rachel is just an administrative requirement. To make me look respectable in society. Enough." I had heard enough. I wanted to kick down the door, I wanted to rip out Sarah's hair and slap Daniel's face. I wanted to scream until my throat was raw, but I held back. I bit my lower lip until it bled to stifle a cry. If I barged in now, they would deny it. They'd call it a momentary lapse. They'd beg for forgiveness and repeat it again later, more carefully. Or worse, Sarah would twist the story and make me look like a hysterical madwoman, while she played the victim who was seduced. No, their punishment wasn't a scream. Their punishment was total annihilation, social annihilation, reputational annihilation. I needed live witnesses. This recording was strong, but seeing it with their own eyes would create a traumatic impact and a conviction that no one, especially our parents, could deny. With my hands still recording, I snapped several photos as backup. The flash remained off. They were too lost in their own world to notice a camera lens spying from behind the door. I backed away slowly. The heaviest steps I'd ever taken in my life. Leaving my husband embracing another woman in our bed, I went down the stairs, my legs feeling like jelly. The tears finally fell, silent and heavy. The pain was no longer sharp. It was a dull ache spreading through my whole body, leaving me numb. Administrative requirement. Trophy wife. Love makes people stupid. From this moment on, those words would fuel my hatred. Goodbye, stupid Rachel. Hello, heartless Rachel. I reached the ground floor. I wiped my face roughly with my sleeve, erasing the tears. This was not the time to cry. It was time for the execution. I went out the side door again. This time, I took out a different key. I locked the side door from the outside. Click! Click! 2 turns. It was a deadbolt that couldn't be opened from the inside without a key. Then I walked to the front door. It was locked from the inside. By Daniel. But I had a duplicate key for the outer layer, the iron security gate. Carefully, I closed the iron gate on the front porch and secured it with the large padlock we used when we went on vacation. Now, all ground floor exits were sealed. The only way out was through the second-floor balcony, which was too high to jump from, or by breaking down a door, which would take time. They were trapped like rats in a maze. I walked back to the front yard and sat on the rattan porch chair. I sat in the dark, watching the quiet suburban street. At 6:15 p.m., 3 cars drove down my street in a line. My dad's black SUV, my uncle's minivan, and my in-laws' old sedan. They had come. As per my instructions, they parked about 20 yards away so the engine sounds wouldn't be heard. I stood up and walked to the gate to greet them. My mother was the first to get out of the car. Her face was etched with worry. She half ran towards me. "Rachel!" "Oh my God, honey," she whispered, half shrieking when she saw my condition. My face was pale, my eyes swollen, and I was dressed in all black. "What is it? Where's Daniel? Are you sick?" My father followed behind her, his face tense. My in-laws, Daniel's parents, looked confused and scared. "Rachel, what is this? Why the sudden gathering? Where's Daniel?" my mother-in-law asked, her voice trembling. I didn't answer. I just looked at them, one by one, with an empty gaze. "Come in, Mom, Dad, Uncle, Aunt." My voice was hoarse, like someone who hadn't had water in days. "Please be quiet. Leave your shoes on the porch." "But what is it?" My father pressed, his parental instincts sensing danger. "You'll see for yourself, Dad," I replied, coldly. "I can't explain it. Let your own eyes tell you." I opened the gate wide, letting the family delegation into my yard. There were 8 of them in total. My parents, my in-laws, my Uncle Rudy, my dad's older brother, his wife, Aunt Lisa, and 2 of my male cousins Uncle Rudy had brought for backup. The atmosphere was heavy and silent, only the sound of footsteps on the driveway. When they saw the white Honda HR-V in the garage, my mother frowned. "Wait, isn't that Sarah's car? Is Sarah here?" "Yes, Mom," I answered curtly. "But she said she was sick," Mom murmured, confused. I led them to the front door. "This door is padlocked from the outside. The side door is also locked. They're inside. They? My father-in-law asked sharply. Who is they? I looked him straight in the eye. Daniel. And Sarah. Yes, sir. My husband and my sister are in my bedroom. That sentence was like a lightning bolt on a clear day. My mother covered her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. My father's face turned crimson. His jaw clenched. My mother-in-law clutched her chest, nearly fainting if her husband hadn't held her. Don't you dare joke about this, Rachel, my father hissed. That's a vile accusation. I didn't defend myself. I reached into my pocket and took out the key to the padlock. I'm not accusing, Dad. Please, go inside. They're on the second floor. The door isn't closed all the way. Go up the stairs slowly, so they don't have time to prepare. I unlocked the gate with a loud clank that echoed in the night's silence. Then I opened the main door with my house key. The dark living room greeted us. Please, I said, stepping aside, making way for the judges to enter the courtroom. I'll wait here. My father entered first, his steps wide and filled with rage. He was followed by Daniel's trembling parents. Then Uncle Rudy and the others. I remained on the porch. I didn't want to see the raid. I didn't need to. I just needed to hear it. And sure enough, 30 seconds later, a thunderous roar came from the second floor, my father's voice, shattering the night's silence and destroying the reputations of the two people inside forever. You filth! What are you doing? It was followed by Sarah's hysterical scream and the sound of something crashing. I leaned against the porch wall, looking up at the starless night sky. A cool breeze hit my face, but for the first time in 6 months, I felt truly free. The cage was locked. The trial had begun. My father's roar was like a long, dormant volcano erupting. Its tremors vibrated through the walls, penetrated the concrete floor, and reached my ears as I leaned against the porch wall. After the initial shout, chaotic noise followed. Heavy footsteps running, the crash of something falling, perhaps a lamp or a vase, and the piercing sound of a hysterical cry. That was Sarah's voice. I didn't move. I remained on the porch, letting the night air chill my skin. I imagined the scene upstairs. My father grabbing Daniel by the collar, my mother slapping her golden child's face, my in-laws collapsing to the floor, their legs unable to support the weight of their shame. 5 minutes passed, stretching like elastic. The front door swung open. From the darkness of the living room, the group descended. The sight before me was a perfect portrait of devastation. My father and Uncle Rudy were dragging Daniel. My husband, the man who was always so composed and well-dressed, now looked pathetic. His shirt was unbuttoned, his face was flushed, and there was a fresh bruise on the corner of his lip. My father must have hit him. Behind them, my mother and Aunt Lisa were half carrying Sarah. My sister, the Parisian star, was a mess. Her hair was tangled, her eyes were swollen, and she was wrapped only in a thick comforter, covering a body I assumed hadn't had time to get fully dressed. Finally, my father-in-law and mother-in-law walked down, their heads bowed in shame. My father-in-law's shoulders were shaking with silent sobs. Their family's honor had been shattered in minutes. In their own daughter-in-law's house. Sit, my father barked, throwing Daniel onto the living room sofa. Sarah was placed on the single armchair opposite him, still sobbing. It hurts. Mom, don't be so rough. She whimpered. You be quiet! My mother snapped. It was the first time in my life I had ever heard my mother raise her voice at Sarah. Her tone for Sarah had always been soft, full of praise. Tonight, that tone was gone, replaced by pure disgust. I finally stepped inside. I closed the front door slowly, locked it again, and pocketed the key. No one was leaving until this trial was over. All eyes turned to me as I stood at the edge of the living room. Daniel looked up, meeting my gaze with bloodshot eyes. There was a flash of anger in them, as if I were the one who had trapped him. As if I were the villain. You planned this, Rach. You pretended to go to San Francisco? He seethed. Quiet, Daniel, my father-in-law roared. his voice trembling violently. "Don't you dare blame your wife. You're the animal here." I walked calmly across the room, past all of them, and sat in a wooden chair in the corner near the television. It was a strategic position. I was not the defendant. I was the prosecutor. "Please, Dad," I said flatly. "Court is now in session." The air in the living room was suffocating. "Explain." My father's voice was low but deadly. He stood with his hands on his hips, his gaze alternating between Daniel and Sarah. "What did we just see? What were you doing in your own sister's bedroom?" Sarah cried harder, a classic tactic to gain sympathy. "Dad, it's a misunderstanding. I just stopped by, and I felt dizzy. Daniel was just helping me. Massage my head." "I swear to God, Dad." "Massage her head?" My mother-in-law interjected, her voice shrill. "Massaging her head while you're both naked? Do you think we're stupid, Sarah? We have eyes. You were both in bed, cuddling." It was cold from the AC, Auntie. "I was just borrowing the blanket." Sarah continued to lie, weaving a more and more ridiculous story. Daniel, realizing Sarah's excuses were absurd, tried a different approach. He looked at my father with a pleading face. "Dad, I'm so sorry. It was a moment of weakness. The devil tempted me. Sarah came here crying, talking about her ex. I was just trying to comfort her. I had no other intentions." I swear, I let out a small snort. The devil tempted me. Classic. Men always blame a supernatural entity when they can't keep their zippers up. "A moment of weakness?" Uncle Rudy said cynically. "So weak that Rachel had to padlock the doors. That means she's known for a while." "Rachel, how long have you known?" Everyone turned to me. I straightened my back. "I suspected for the last 2 months." "Why did you keep quiet, honey?" my mother asked softly, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. "Because if I had spoken without proof, Daniel would have called me crazy. Sarah would have said I was insecure and blindly jealous." I answered calmly, staring daggers at Sarah. She looked away. "I needed you and Dad to see for yourselves who your golden child and your perfect son-in-law really are." "Rachel, please." Daniel suddenly got on his knees, shuffling towards me. He tried to take my hand. "Honey, listen to me. I was wrong. I admit it. But please, don't humiliate me like this in front of our parents. Let's solve this between us. I'm your husband. Rach, your leader." I pulled my foot away as if he were filth. "My leader?" I laughed, a dry, hollow sound. "What kind of leader commits adultery with his sister-in-law in his own wife's house?" "I didn't. We didn't do anything." Daniel denied quickly. "We were just cuddling. Nothing happened." "Liar." I cut in. "I swear, Rach, you have no proof that we did anything." Daniel started to panic, his voice rising. He was trying one last-ditch gaslighting attempt, betting that I had only seen them cuddling. Staking. I stood up slowly and picked up the HDMI cable from the TV stand. "You think my only evidence is my own 2 eyes?" I asked, plugging the cable into my laptop, which I had already prepared in my bag. The 50-inch smart TV in the living room flickered to life, displaying my laptop's desktop. "Technology is honest, Dan. It can't lie, it can't gaslight, and it can't have a moment of weakness." I clicked on the most recent video file. The video began to play. A black and white image from the bedroom spy cam appeared on the large screen. The quality was HD. The sound crystal clear thanks to the sensitive microphone I had bought. On screen, Daniel and Sarah entered the room. They kissed. Hands roamed. They fell onto the bed. The living room was silent. Utterly silent. Even Sarah's sobs stopped instantly. Her face was ashen, like a corpse. Daniel was frozen, his eyes wide, staring at the screen as if he'd seen a ghost. My mother buried her face in a sofa cushion, unable to watch. My father turned away, his fists clenched so tight they trembled. I fast-forwarded the video past the disgusting physical part, straight to the aftertalk. The part I most wanted them to see. Daniel's voice echoed from the TV speakers. She's easy to fool. Sar. All I have to do is praise her a little, buy her something nice. She just melts. She's too in love with me. Love makes people stupid, my mother-in-law gasped, staring at her son in disbelief. Then, Sarah's voice. You're so mean. But hey, I'm glad. If she were smart, we couldn't be doing this. And the climax, Daniel's words that served as the death sentence for our marriage. So just let her be the trophy wife in this house. The important thing is, my heart, my soul, will always be yours. You are my queen, Sar. Rachel is just an administrative requirement to make me look respectable in society. I hit pause. The image froze on the screen, right as Daniel kissed Sarah's forehead. The file name was clearly visible. Adultery. Proof. 1. MP. 4. I turned to face them. Administrative requirement, I repeated slowly. Trophy wife. That's me in your eyes, Dan. Just a formality so you can look successful. So you won't be called a pathetic bachelor who couldn't move on. Daniel couldn't answer. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. There were no more denials, no more arguments about just a massage. The evidence was naked and brutal. You disgraceful boy! My father-in-law stood up, and smack. A hard slap landed on Daniel's cheek, so forceful his head snapped to the side. I raised you to be a responsible man, not a coward who plays with someone's daughter, he shouted. He clutched his chest, his breath ragged. My mother-in-law rushed to help him sit down again. My father walked towards Sarah. She looked down, her body shaking violently. She knew her golden child shield had been shattered. Sarah, my father's voice trembled. I sent you overseas to study. I boasted about you to everyone. I always told Rachel to be more like her sister. And this is who you really are? A homewrecker who betrayed your own sister? Dad, I'm sorry. Sarah tried to take his hand. He snatched it away. Don't touch me. You disgust me. Those 3 words, you disgust me, must have destroyed Sarah more than anything. She was a child who thrived on parental validation. And tonight, she had lost her life source. In the midst of the destruction, something interesting happened. The true love alliance between Daniel and Sarah began to crack under pressure. It was his idea, Dad! Sarah suddenly screamed, pointing at Daniel, her face a mess of tears and snot. There was no Parisian chic left. Daniel was the one who chased me. I rejected him when I came back, but he kept messaging me. He came to my apartment. I'm a woman, Dad. I'm weak when my past keeps tempting me. Daniel whipped his head around, his eyes bulging in disbelief. What? Why are you saying that, Sar? You were the one who texted me first on Rachel's birthday. You were the one who suggested the reunion here. You were the one who said Rachel was boring. You said your marriage was stale, Sarah retorted, refusing to back down. If you were happy with Rachel, you wouldn't have entertained me, Daniel. You were the one who was thirsty. You were the one who enjoyed it. Sarah, don't act so innocent. Daniel stood up, pointing a finger in her face. You said you regretted leaving me because I'm successful now. You just want my money and my status, don't you? Pfft, Sarah spat in his direction. What success? This house is still on a mortgage. Your car is leased. I was only with you because I felt sorry for you. You know that? I watched their fight with a cold satisfaction. Look at them. The soulmates. The My Muse couple. Within minutes of being cornered, they were stabbing each other in the back, shifting blame, exposing each other's secrets. Their love wasn't real. It was just lust, wrapped in obsession and ego. Once you peeled back the skin, the inside was rotten. Enough! I shouted, my voice cut through their bickering. The room fell silent again. I walked to the center of the room, standing between Daniel and Sarah. You're both the same, I said flatly. Equally pathetic. I looked at Daniel. You're an insecure man who needs validation from Sarah because she dumped you when you were poor. You needed to prove you were worthy, so you cheated. That's not love, that's ego. I turned to Sarah. And you, Sarah, you're not in love with Daniel. You're just jealous of me. You couldn't stand that your plain little sister had a stable life and a successful husband, while you were lonely in Paris and failing at relationships. You wanted to take what I had just to prove you were still the best in this family. Sarah was silent. Her eyes told me my guess was spot on. You don't love each other, I continued. You're just two broken people using each other to fill the holes in your own hearts. And you know what? Go ahead. You deserve each other. I turned to my in-laws and my parents. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry if my methods tonight were harsh, but I had no other choice. No, honey. You were right, my mother-in-law said, sobbing. I'm the one who should be sorry. I failed to raise Daniel properly. I'm so ashamed, Rachel. I wouldn't blame you if you slapped him. That's not necessary, I replied. My hands are too precious to touch him. I took off my wedding ring, a simple white gold band with a small diamond that Daniel had placed on my finger with sweet promises. I put it on the coffee table, right next to his car keys. Daniel, I called. He looked at me, all hope gone from his eyes. He looked drained and broken. From this second on, my body, my assets, and my life are forbidden to you. Pack your things. Get out of this house. This house is in my name. The down payment was from my savings. The mortgage is auto-debited from my salary. You were just living here. Daniel's face grew even paler. Yes, he'd forgotten that fact. His pride as a provider was an illusion. I was the one shouldering more of the financial burden, but I had kept quiet to protect his ego. And Sarah, I said without turning to her, don't you ever contact me again. As far as I'm concerned, your sister is dead. 3 months later, the sound of the judge's gavel in the family court was the sweetest music I had ever heard. The court grants the petitioner's request in its entirety. I took a long, deep breath and exhaled. I felt light. The tons of weight that had been crushing my chest were finally lifted. I was officially a divorcee at 27, a status that might be scary for some, but for me, it was a badge of freedom. I walked out of the courthouse with a spring in my step. My parents were waiting in the parking lot. Our relationship with Sarah was completely destroyed. After that night, my father kicked her out of the house. She now lives alone in her rented apartment. Rumor has it she lost her job because her reputation was ruined in her social circles. Gossip spreads fast. Daniel was fired from his architecture firm. Apparently, a morality clause was a key part of his employment contract, and a scandal involving adultery with a sister-in-law was not something the prestigious company could tolerate. The last I heard, Daniel and Sarah tried to have an official relationship after my divorce was finalized. But just as I predicted, their relationship was a living hell. Without the thrill of secrecy, without me as a point of comparison, and with Daniel's dire financial situation, they were just two angry people blaming each other for their misfortune. They were often seen fighting in public. Their true love withered before it could bloom. Is it done, honey? My mother asked, as I got into the car. It's done, Mom. The divorce decree will be issued next week. My father patted my shoulder from the front seat. I'm so sorry, Rach. I was blind for so long. I worshipped Sarah so much that I couldn't see the real diamond right in front of me. I smiled. It's okay, Dad. The important thing is that we're moving forward. The car moved through the Chicago streets. I saw my reflection in the window. I had cut my hair short, into a fresh bob. I was wearing a bright white shirt and coral lipstick. No more dusty pink dresses chosen by Daniel. No more tuberose perfume that belonged to Sarah. I was Rachel. I was nobody's shadow. I was not an administrative requirement. I remembered Daniel's words from the video. Love makes people stupid. Maybe he was right. I was once stupid because of love, but the pain has educated me into a genius. And starting today, I will build my own life, a structure that is strong, beautiful, and most importantly, entirely mine. The sky outside was bright, A new dawn had broken, and its light felt warm on my face. Damn. This was the most elegant and lethal form of revenge. But honestly, if you were in Rachel's shoes, would you choose to kick down the door in a fit of rage or hold back for solid proof like she did? Sound off in the comments. Type Team Wrecking Ball or Team Mastermind. I want to see how many of you have that kind of patience.